The command center on Nexus Station looked like someone had kicked over an anthill. Admiral Thexvor stood in the middle of the chaos. His forearms crossed in frustration. Holographic displays floated everywhere, each one showing the same terrible truth. The Phyrexian Empire had trapped 2 million human colonists on New Terra, and nobody knew how to save them. The problem was simple to understand, but impossible to solve. The Phyrexians had surrounded the planet with massive satellites that created gravity wells. These wells made space around New Terra act like thick mud. Ships could not jump to light speed. They could barely move at all. Any ship that tried to break through would be crushed or torn apart. For 6 weeks, the best military minds in the galaxy had tried everything. The Krillians, who had been fighting wars for 3,000 years, suggested a direct assault. Their computers said it would cost them 90% of their fleet. The Kurnians, famous for their clever tactics, proposed using stealth ships. The gravity wells would detect them anyway. The Thorvins wanted to negotiate. The Phyrexians just laughed at them. Thexvor watched another simulation play out on the main screen. Red ships representing the Coalition fleet moved toward the blockade. Green lines showed the gravity fields. Within seconds, the red ships turned gray, indicating destruction. The simulation ended with the same result as the last 47 attempts. Total failure. A junior officer approached nervously. He was Krillian, young, with bright orange scales that showed his anxiety. His voice shook when he spoke. "Admiral, the humans are here." Thexvor sighed. The humans. Of course they would want to help. They always did. But this situation was beyond anyone's ability to fix. It required a miracle, and Thexvor had stopped believing in miracles around his 50th birthday. That was 77 years ago. Commander Jiwan Park walked into the command center like she owned the place. She was 42 years old, average height for a human with short black hair and eyes that never stopped moving. She studied everything, constantly calculating. Behind her came Captain Minji Choi, a pilot with a reputation for doing things that should be impossible. Next was Lieutenant Hyun Kim, who smiled too much for someone in the military. Last came Dr. Sora Yoon, carrying a tablet and looking thoughtful. Thexvor had worked with humans before. They were strange creatures. They did not follow normal patterns. Where other species saw rules, humans saw suggestions. Where others saw impossible obstacles, humans saw interesting puzzles. It made them useful. It also made them dangerous. "Commander Park," Thexvor greeted her with a slight bow. "Thank you for coming. Though I fear this situation is beyond even human creativity." Jiwan smiled. That worried Thexvor. Humans smiled for many reasons, and not all of them were good. "We have been studying the blockade," Jiwan said. She pulled up her own holographic display. "The Phyrexians did good work. Very smart. Very thorough. They thought of everything." "Yes," Thexvor agreed. "Which is why we cannot break it." "Cannot break it using normal methods," Jiwan corrected him. She tapped her tablet and the display changed. "But what if we do not try to break it? What if we use it instead?" The room went quiet. Every officer turned to look at the human commander. Thexvor felt a familiar sensation in his stomach. Humans called it a sinking feeling. Krillians called it the certainty of incoming disaster. "Explain," Thexvor said carefully. Jiwan's display showed the gravity wells in detail. She pointed to the satellites creating them. Her fingers moved quickly, highlighting different points. "These gravity wells are designed to stop ships. They pull on anything that gets close. The Phyrexians use them like a fence. But gravity does not just stop things. It also accelerates them. If something falls toward a gravity well from the right angle, it moves faster and faster." Minji stepped forward. The captain had been quiet until now, but her eyes were bright with understanding. "We turn them into a slingshot," Minji said. "We use their own weapons against them." "Precisely," Jiwan nodded. "We take 8 asteroid mining ships, big ones. We strip them down, remove all the safety systems, and overload their engines. Then we aim them at specific points in the blockade. The gravity wells will pull them in faster and faster. When they reach maximum velocity, we detonate their fusion cores." A Thorvin general stood up, his fur standing on end in shock. His voice came out as a squeak. "You want to turn civilian mining vessels into missiles?" "Very fast missiles," Hyun added cheerfully. "Near light speed if we do it right. Each explosion will create a shockwave. 8 explosions in the right sequence will collapse parts of the gravity field. For a short time, maybe 47 seconds, there will be a tunnel. A path through the blockade." Thexvor stared at the humans. Then he looked at their calculations on the display. His military training, his 3 centuries of experience, his deep understanding of warfare, all of it screamed that this plan was insane. It violated every principle of safe tactics. It assumed everything would work perfectly. It required precision that was almost impossible to achieve. But the mathematics were sound. The physics worked. If they could pull it off, if everything went exactly right, they would save 2 million lives. This is not a military operation, Thexfor said slowly. This is weaponized mathematics combined with suicide. Jiwan looked at him steadily. Her smile had faded. Now she was serious, professional. This was not a joke to her. She understood the risks. Yes, Admiral, it is dangerous. It is crazy. It might not work, but it is the only plan we have that gives us a real chance. Every other option guarantees failure. This one gives us hope. Minji leaned against a console, relaxed and confident. She examined her fingernails like they were discussing the weather. Not a plan that could kill them all. So, she said casually, are we doing this? Or are we going to let 2 million people starve because the plan sounds scary? Dr. Sora finally spoke. She had been watching the other officers, studying their reactions. As a xenobiologist, she understood alien thinking patterns better than most humans. Admiral, may I show you something? She pulled up historical files on her tablet. Images and videos appeared in the air. This is Apollo 13, when humans saved astronauts using duct tape and prayer. This is the Mars colony crisis of 2197, when we fixed a failing life support system with spare parts and hope. This is the first contact incident, when humanity solved a diplomatic crisis by doing something completely unexpected. She looked around the room at all the alien officers. Humanity has a long tradition of looking at impossible problems and asking one question. What if we ignore the impossible part and just do it anyway? Sometimes we fail, but often we succeed, and we always try. Thexfor closed all 4 of his eyes. He thought about his duty. He thought about 2 million lives. He thought about military regulations that said he should never approve such a reckless plan. Then he thought about something a human had told him once. Sometimes you have to break the rules to do what is right. He opened his eyes and looked at Commander Park. How long do you need to prepare? Jiwan checked her tablet. Minji grinned. Hyun cracked his knuckles. Sora nodded approvingly. 72 hours, Jiwan said. You have it. May the stars guide you, Commander. As the humans left the command center, already talking excitedly about modifications and calculations, Thexfor sat down heavily. A Kernian aide approached him nervously. Sir, are we really going to let them do this? Thexfor watched the humans disappear down the corridor. He heard Minji laugh at something Hyun said. They were happy. They were confident. They were about to attempt something that could kill them all. And somehow watching them, Thexfor felt hope for the first time in 6 weeks. Yes, he said quietly. We are going to let them do this. Because they are humans, and humans do impossible things before breakfast. Lieutenant Hyun Kim stood in the Coalition shipyard with his hands on his hips, looking at 8 massive asteroid mining ships. Each one was the size of a small building. They were ugly, functional machines designed to break apart rocks in deep space. In 72 hours, he would turn them into weapons that could break a military blockade. Around him, alien engineers watched with growing horror as human technicians began tearing the ships apart. Safety systems were removed. Control computers were replaced. Reactor cores were being modified in ways that made the chief Krillian engineer physically ill. You cannot do this, the Krillian said, his voice shaking. These modifications violate 47 different safety protocols. The reactors will overload. The ships will explode before they reach the target. Hyun smiled at him. It was not a mean smile. It was the smile of someone who had heard this concern many times before. That is the idea, Hyun explained patiently. We want them to explode, just not too early. We need them to explode at exactly the right moment in exactly the right place. But the calculations, the stress on the hulls, the radiation exposure, are all within acceptable limits, Hyun finished. Barely, but acceptable. Look, I understand this seems crazy. It is crazy. But crazy works when you do the math correctly. He pulled up a holographic display showing detailed calculations. The Krillian studied them, his eyes growing wider with each passing second. These numbers, they work, they should not work, but they do. How did you even think of this? Hyun shrugged. Video games mostly, and that time in engineering school when we tried to see how fast we could make a cargo drone go before it fell apart. Turns out pretty fast. On the other side of the station, Captain Minji Choi was selecting her assault team. She had requested volunteers for what she called a high-risk, high-reward mission. The response had been overwhelming. 200 pilots wanted to join. She could only take 40. She walked down the line of volunteers, studying each one carefully. She was not looking for the most experienced pilots. She was not looking for the highest-ranking officers. She was looking for something else, something harder to define. You? She pointed to a young human pilot. What is your name? Ensign Deho, ma'am. Tell me, Ensign, have you ever done something in a simulator that made your instructor fail you? The young pilot hesitated. Minji could see him thinking, trying to decide if this was a trick question. Yes, ma'am. I completed a combat scenario by flying through an enemy ship instead of around it. The instructor said it was impossible and dangerous, but it worked. Minji grinned. You are in. Report to Hangar Bay 3. She continued down the line. An alien pilot, a Kurnian with excellent flying skills, stepped forward hopefully. Captain, I have 15 years of experience. Perfect flight record. Never had an accident. That is the problem, Minji said gently. I need pilots who have had accidents and learned from them. I need people who push limits and survive. Come back when you have crashed a ship and walked away from it. By the end of the day, she had her team. 40 pilots who shared one common trait. They all believed that rules were suggestions, that impossible was negotiable, and that the best way to solve a problem was to try something nobody had done before. Admiral Thexvor observed the preparations from his office. Reports came in constantly, each one more alarming than the last. The humans had removed the emergency brake systems from the asteroid miners. They had overclocked the reactor cores by 340%. They had installed guidance computers meant for atmospheric flight on ships designed for vacuum. His aide, a nervous young Thorvin, brought him the latest update. Sir, the humans are loading the cargo holds with fusion warheads. This violates every weapons safety regulation in the Coalition Charter. I am aware, Thexvor said calmly. Should we stop them? No. We should get out of their way and let them work. The aide looked confused. But sir, this is insane. Thexvor turned to look at his young assistant. Tell me something. Have you ever seen humans fail when they are doing something insane? The Thorvin thought about it. No, sir, I have not. Exactly. Now bring me regular updates and make sure our medical teams are on standby, just in case. Commander Jiwon Park spent most of her time in the simulation center. The Coalition had provided her with their most advanced tactical computers. She used them to run the mission plan thousands of times, adjusting variables, calculating probabilities, looking for problems. The simulations were not encouraging. The success rate hovered around 47%. That was better than zero, but not by much. Every time she thought she had solved one problem, two more appeared. Dr. Sora found her there late on the second night, staring at holographic displays with tired eyes. You should rest, Sora said softly. Tomorrow is going to be difficult. I know. I just keep thinking there must be something I am missing, some variable I have not accounted for. Sora sat down next to her friend. The aliens think we are crazy for attempting this. Do you know why? Because we are crazy? Because they plan for everything to work perfectly. When something goes wrong, they panic. But humans? We plan for things to go wrong. We expect Murphy's Law. We prepare for chaos. That is our advantage. Jiwon smiled despite her exhaustion. So you are saying I should stop trying to make a perfect plan? I am saying you should trust our people to handle whatever chaos comes. That is what humans do best. On the final night before the mission, something unexpected happened. The human team threw a party in the hangar bay. Someone brought music. Someone else brought alcohol, technically against regulations, but nobody seemed to care. A junior technician had rigged a gravity plate to create a low-gravity zone, perfect for playing games. The alien officers discovered this when Admiral Thexvor decided to make a final inspection. He walked into the hangar expecting to find people doing last-minute checks. Instead, he found a celebration. Minji was teaching a Krillian pilot how to play zero-gravity table tennis. Hyun was arm-wrestling 3 people at once and losing badly while everyone laughed. Jiwon was sitting on a cargo crate, drinking something that smelled strongly of alcohol, talking with her team about old missions and shared memories. Thexvor stood in the doorway completely baffled. His tactical training had not prepared him for this. Tomorrow, these people would attempt something that could kill them all. Tomorrow, they would try to break an unbreakable blockade using modified mining ships and mathematical precision. And tonight they were playing games. Minji noticed him standing there and walked over, still bouncing slightly from the low gravity. "Admiral, come join us. We are having a pre-mission celebration. Should you not be doing final equipment checks, running last simulations, preparing mentally for combat?" Minji looked at him with genuine confusion. "We did all that yesterday. The ships are ready. The plan is solid. Now we trust it and relax. There is nothing more we can do tonight except worry, and worrying does not help." She held out a drink. Thexvor looked at it, then at her, then at the assembled humans and aliens who were laughing and playing together despite tomorrow's danger. He declined the drink. Alcohol affected Krillian biology in unpredictable ways. But he stayed and watched. He watched humans do something that no military academy had ever taught him. They let go of fear. They trusted their preparation. They enjoyed the moment before the storm. Later that night, back in his office, Thexvor made a note in his personal log. The entry was simple but profound. Observed human pre-combat ritual. They celebrate before attempting impossible tasks. This may be their greatest tactical advantage. They have already accepted the risk. They have already chosen to try. Everything else is just details. He paused, then added one more line. "If they succeed tomorrow, I will need to rewrite every military textbook in the coalition. If they fail, at least they will have had one last good night. Either way, I am beginning to understand why humans are so dangerous. They do not fear death. They fear not trying." Dawn came quickly on Nexus Station. The artificial lighting system simulated a sunrise, painting the hangar bay in shades of orange and gold. The party was long over. Now 40 pilots stood in neat lines checking equipment one last time. 8 massive mining ships sat ready, their modified engines humming with barely contained power. They looked dangerous now, no longer just industrial equipment, but weapons of desperate hope. Commander G1 gave a final briefing. It was short. Humans did not need long speeches before battle. You all know the plan. You all know the risks. You all volunteered anyway. That tells me everything I need to know about your courage. When we are out there, things will go wrong. They always do. When that happens, improvise. Adapt. Trust your instincts and trust each other. She paused, looking at each face. 2 million people are counting on us. Not because we are perfect, not because we follow all the rules, but because we are willing to try when everyone else has given up. Let us go show them what humans can do. The pilots cheered, not a formal military salute, not a solemn acknowledgement, just a loud, enthusiastic cheer that made the alien observers jump in surprise. As they boarded their ships, Minji caught Jiwon's arm. "See you on the other side, Commander." "See you on the other side, Captain. Try not to break too many laws of physics out there." Minji grinned. No promises. The 8 mining ships left Nexus Station in perfect formation. Behind them, 43 relief vessels waited nervously. Admiral Thexvor stood in the command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing every angle of the battlefield. His 4 hands gripped the railing in front of him so tightly that his knuckles turned pale. This was it. The moment that would either save 2 million lives or end in catastrophic failure. Captain Minji sat in her cockpit, hands steady on the controls. Her ship, the Horizon's Edge, was the smallest and fastest of the assault group. Her job was simple: thread through impossible gaps while everything around her exploded. Easy. All ships, this is Commander Park. Approaching the blockade perimeter. Hyun status on the mining ships? Lieutenant Hyun's voice came through clearly, calm despite the situation. All 8 birds are singing beautifully. Reactors are stable. Guidance systems are locked. We are ready to knock on the Vrexians' door. The Vrexian blockade appeared on their sensors. Massive satellites hung in space like a web of metal and death. Green lines on the tactical display showed the gravity fields between them. No ship should be able to pass through those fields. The gravitational forces would tear anything apart. But the humans were not planning to pass through them. They were planning to use them. "Mining Ship 1, you are go for launch," Commander G1 said. The first modified asteroid miner fired its engines and accelerated toward the blockade. The Vrexian satellites detected it immediately. Their automated systems increased power, creating a stronger gravity well to pull the ship in and crush it. Exactly as planned. The mining ship fell toward the gravity well, moving faster and faster. Its reactor core glowed brighter as it fed more power to the engines. Speed increased faster. The ship's hull began to glow from friction with space dust. Then, at exactly the calculated moment, Lieutenant Hune detonated the fusion warheads in its cargo hold. The explosion was beautiful. A sphere of white light expanded outward, carrying the force of a small star. The shockwave hit the nearest satellite and it simply ceased to exist. The gravity well collapsed, 1 down, 7 to go, but something was wrong. Hyun's voice came through the communication system, tension creeping in for the first time. "Commander, we have a problem. The Vrexians are adapting. They are deploying backup satellites. The timing is off. On Nexus Station, every alien admiral said the same thing at once: abort, retreat." The plan had failed. But Commander G1 did not order a retreat. She stared at the tactical display, her mind racing through calculations. "Hyun, can we adjust the detonation sequence?" "Negative. The mining ships are already locked onto their trajectories. We cannot change course now." This was the moment every military planner feared. The moment when careful planning met unexpected reality. This was when conventional tactics said to cut losses and retreat. But humans were not conventional. "Okay," Jiwan said, and Admiral Thexfor felt his stomach drop because he knew what was coming next. "New plan. We wing it." "Wing it?" A Krillian officer looked confused. "What does that mean?" Dr. Sora, standing next to Thexfor in the command center, translated. "It means they are going to improvise. Make it up as they go. Adapt to chaos instead of following the plan." Out in space, Captain Minji was already moving. She did not wait for orders. She saw the problem and she acted. Horizon's Edge breaking formation. "I am going in early. If I can distract their backup satellites, it might give us the timing we need." "Minji, that is not part of the plan," Jiwan said. But there was no anger in her voice, just concern. "The plan just changed, remember? Trust me." Minji pushed her engines to maximum. The Horizon's Edge shot forward, directly toward the blockade. Vrexian sensors locked onto her small ship. Automated weapons began firing. Energy beams lit up space around her. She dodged. Not with calculated precision. Not following any combat manual. She moved by instinct, feeling where the weapons would fire before they fired. Her ship twisted through space in ways that made physics professors want to cry. And it worked. The Vrexian backup satellites focused on her instead of the incoming mining ships. The timing was back on track. Mining ships 2 and 3 detonated in perfect sequence. 2 more satellites vanished in expanding spheres of light. The gravity web began to weaken, but then Lieutenant Hune saw another problem. Ships 4 and 5 were not going to reach their detonation points. The new satellite positions had changed the gravity fields. The mining ships would miss by over 2 kilometers. "Commander, we need to improvise again. I am detonating 4 and 5 early. It will not be perfect, but I can use the shock waves to push some of the relief ships through a temporary gap." "Do it," Jiwan ordered without hesitation. 2 more explosions. The shock waves expanded outward. They missed the satellites but hit 3 relief vessels waiting nearby. Instead of destroying them, the precise angle and force of the explosions pushed them forward, through a gap in the gravity field that was closing fast. Hyun had done the calculations in his head while eating a sandwich. Physics professors across the galaxy would later spend months trying to figure out how he managed it. The answer was simple. He was really good at math and he did not overthink it. 3 relief ships made it through the blockade. 40 more still waited outside. But 3 was better than 0. Mining Ship 6 launched perfectly. It hit its target. Another satellite disappeared, but Ship 7 had a malfunction. Its guidance system failed. It was going to miss its target completely and the explosion would do nothing useful. Commander Jiwan watched the trajectory on her display. Her tactical computer said the situation was unsalvageable. Ship 7 would waste its payload. The mission would fail. Her tactical computer did not account for human stubbornness. Hyun, can you redirect Ship 7? Negative. Guidance is completely dead. But, wait. There is a Vrexian command ship in that area. If I detonate Ship 7 near it, the explosion might take out their command ship and cause enough confusion to help. That is not what Ship 7 was designed to do. I know, but it will work. Trust me, Jiwan did trust him. That was the whole point of having a good team. You trusted them to make smart decisions when plans went wrong. Do it. Ship 7 exploded near the Vrexian command vessel. The warship's shields held but barely. Damage reports flooded their systems. More importantly, their command network went offline for 47 seconds while they dealt with the unexpected attack. 47 seconds was exactly how long they needed. Mining Ship 8. The last one detonated perfectly. The gravity tunnel opened. Not as clean as planned, not as stable as hoped, but open. All ships, this is Commander Park, the tunnel is open. You have 34 seconds. Go now, 34 seconds. The plan had called for 47, but 13 seconds was the price of adaptation and improvisation. The relief convoy did not hesitate. Every ship fired engines at maximum power simultaneously. They raced toward the tunnel. 40 ships carrying food, medicine, hope. Captain Minji was supposed to go first, using her speed to lead the way. But her ship had taken damage during her distraction maneuver. One engine was failing. She was falling behind. Minji, report status, Jiwan demanded. Engine 2 is dead. I am not going to make it through before the tunnel collapses. On Nexus Station, Admiral Thexvor made a command decision. The mission was successful. 41 ships would make it through. 2 would not, including Minji's ship. By any military calculation, that was an acceptable loss. All ships, retreat. The mission is complete. Captain Choi, fall back to safe distance. Commander Jiwan heard the order. She understood the logic. One ship was not worth risking the entire convoy. Then she did what humans do best. She ignored the logical choice and chose the right one. Negative, Admiral. I am going back for her. Commander, that is a direct order. You will stand down. Permission to disobey, sir. We do not leave our people behind. Jiwan's command ship turned around. It was not designed for combat or rescue. It was a tactical vessel, meant to coordinate from a safe distance. But it had engines and it had shields, and that was enough. 3 other human ships broke formation without being asked. 7 alien vessels followed them. If the humans were crazy enough to go back, they must know something the aliens did not. They reached Minji's position with 11 seconds to spare. Jiwan's ship extended a magnetic grapple, locked onto the horizon's edge, and pulled. Both ships accelerated toward the closing tunnel. The gravity tunnel collapsed behind them with 3 seconds remaining. In the command center, every alien officer stared at the tactical display in stunned silence. Then someone started clapping. Someone else cheered. Within seconds, the entire command center erupted in celebration. Admiral Thexvor sat down heavily in his command chair. He looked at Dr. Sora, who was smiling quietly. I should file charges against Commander Park for disobeying a direct order, he said. Are you going to? Thexvor thought about it. Then he thought about 41 relief ships reaching New Terra. He thought about 2 million people who would live because humans had refused to accept the impossible. No, he said quietly. I am going to add a note to her file, human. Explains everything. 3 days after the mission, Commander Jiwan Park sat in a debriefing room surrounded by alien military analysts. They had been asking questions for hours. The same questions, rephrased in different ways as if repetition would reveal some secret formula. But how did you know the improvisation would work? A Krillian general asked for the 5th time. We did not know, Jiwan answered honestly. We made our best guess based on the situation and hoped it would work out. The general looked horrified. You hoped? You based military decisions on hope? Not just hope. Experience, training, trust in our people, but yes, some hope. Hope is not a plan, but it is a good motivation. Captain Minji, sitting next to Jiwan, was less diplomatic. She had spent the last hour listening to aliens try to explain why what they did should have been impossible. Look, she said, interrupting a Thorvan analyst mid-sentence. You want to know how we did it? We practiced hard. We prepared for things to go wrong, and when they did go wrong, we did not panic. We adapted, that is it. There is no secret formula. Just training and trust. But the risks were acceptable, Minji finished. You keep looking for a way to do what we did without taking risks. That way does not exist. Sometimes you have to bet everything on a crazy idea. Sometimes the crazy idea works. Admiral Thexvor watched the debriefing from an observation room. Dr. Sora stood beside him, making notes on her tablet. They are trying to systematize chaos, Sora said quietly. They want to put human improvisation into a manual so they can teach it. But you cannot teach it like that, why not? Thexvor asked. If it works, we should be able to replicate it, because it requires a mindset shift. Your species, most alien species, you are taught that following rules leads to success. Humans are taught that rules are a starting point. When rules fail, we make new ones. You cannot teach that in a classroom. It is cultural. Thexvor considered this. So what you are saying is that we can never fight like humans? No. I am saying you should stop trying to fight like humans and start learning from humans. Use our approach as one tool among many. Your precision and planning combined with our improvisation and risk-taking. That is the real advantage. Meanwhile, across the station, Lieutenant Hyun was having his own meeting. 7 different weapons manufacturers wanted to hire him. They offered incredible salaries, benefits, research budgets, everything a military engineer could dream of. He turned them all down. Why? One representative asked, genuinely confused. We can offer you resources you have never had before. You could design weapons that would change warfare. That is exactly why I am saying no, Hyun explained. You want me to design weapons. I want to solve problems. Sometimes weapons solve problems. Sometimes they create new ones. I would rather stay independent and choose my projects. He opened his own consulting business 2 weeks later. The name was simple, Creative Ordnance Solutions. His business motto made the legal department nervous, but his clients loved it. If it is stupid and it works, it is not stupid. The real chaos started when the mission footage was leaked to the Galactic Data Network. Nobody knew who leaked it. Some suspected the humans did it themselves. Either way, within 48 hours, billions of people across hundreds of worlds had watched the new Terra rescue. They watched Captain Minji thread her ship through impossible gaps while humming Earth music. They watched Lieutenant Hyun calculate explosive trajectories while eating a sandwich. They watched Commander Jiwon say the words that would become legendary across the galaxy. New plan. Wing it. The Vrexian Empire released an official statement. They claimed the blockade had been strategically withdrawn. They said human tactics were reckless and unsustainable. They predicted the coalition would regret allowing humans such freedom. Nobody believed them. The footage went viral. Within a month, recruitment for coalition military service increased by 340%. 89% of applicants specifically requested assignment to human-led units. Alien military academies started adding new courses. Understanding human tactical psychology, adaptive combat strategies, emergency improvisation techniques. The textbooks were written by Dr. Sora, who suddenly found herself in high demand as a lecturer. She wrote a book. The title was This Might Be Crazy, but A History of Human Problem Solving. It became required reading at every coalition military academy. The introduction started with a simple statement. Humans do not think victory is impossible. They think impossible is a dare. 2 months after the new Terra rescue, the coalition held a formal awards ceremony. Commander Jiwon was promoted to admiral. She tried to decline. The coalition high command insisted. They needed someone with her tactical flexibility in a position of real authority. She accepted on one condition. She would have no command authority over regular forces. Instead, she would serve as special tactical consultant. Her job would be simple. Propose crazy ideas, and let others decide if they wanted to try them. Captain Minji received the coalition's highest military honor, the Star of Valor. She accepted it gracefully, then announced her next assignment. She would train alien pilots in human-style improvisation. Her first class had 200 students. Her first lesson shocked them all. Forget everything you learned in flight school, she told them. Rules are important. Safety is important. Training is important. But sometimes, in the moment of crisis, you need to trust your instincts and do what feels right, even if it violates every rule you know. Today we are going to practice controlled chaos. The students thought she was joking. She was not joking. By the end of the first week, half the class had dropped out. They could not handle the stress of intentionally doing things wrong to learn how to recover from mistakes. The other half became the best combat pilots in the coalition. 3 months after the rescue, Admiral Thexvor invited the core human team to a private dinner. He had spent his career studying military history across 17 different civilizations. He needed to understand something fundamental. Where did humans learn this approach? He asked. This combination of careful planning and wild improvisation? It is unlike anything I have seen in 3 centuries of military service. Jiwan thought about the question carefully. She sipped her drink, a human beverage that Thexvor had learned to tolerate called whiskey. We learned it from ourselves, she said finally. For most of our history, humans fought each other. We were not united against external threats. We were divided, competing, constantly trying to outsmart each other. That forced us to innovate, to adapt, to try new things because the old things stopped working. Minji added. We also had to survive with limited resources. When you do not have the best equipment or the largest army, you learn to be creative. You learn to use what you have in unexpected ways. Hyun nodded. And we made a lot of mistakes. Catastrophic mistakes. But we learned from them. Each failure taught us something. After a while, we stopped fearing failure. We started seeing it as part of the process. Dr. Sora provided the final piece. Humanity spent millennia developing something unique, a culture that celebrates problem solvers and risk takers. We tell stories about people who tried impossible things and succeeded. We reward innovation more than perfection. It is not genetic. It is not biological. It is cultural. And culture can be learned. Thexvor listened to all of this. He thought about the centuries of Krillian military tradition, the careful planning, the methodical approach, the belief that following procedure would lead to success. So what you are telling me, he said slowly, is that humans are not better warriors. You are better survivors. Exactly, Jiwon smiled. There is a difference. Warriors follow rules of combat. Survivors do whatever it takes to live. Thexvor raised his glass in a toast. The gesture was human, but he had learned it from them. Then I am glad you are on our side. Jiwon smiled, but there was something in her expression that made Thexvor slightly nervous. Usually, she said, usually, humans have a long memory for those who threaten us, and a strong sense of fairness. As long as the coalition treats us well and respects our methods, you have nothing to worry about. Thexvor did not find this particularly reassuring, but he understood the message. Humans were valuable allies and terrifying enemies. Best to keep them happy. Later that night, alone in his quarters, Admiral Thexvor updated his personal log. He had been keeping detailed observations of humanity since first contact. His notes would eventually become a book, required reading for any alien officer working with humans. He wrote, "The new Terra rescue taught the Coalition 3 important lessons. First, impossible is only impossible if you accept it. Second, careful planning is valuable but not sufficient. You must also plan for the plan to fail. Third, and most important, humans will always surprise you. The moment you think you understand them, they will do something completely unexpected. This is not a flaw. This is their greatest strength. We should not try to make humans more like us. We should try to learn from them while maintaining our own strengths. The combination of human improvisation and alien precision may be the Coalition's greatest weapon." He paused, then added one final note. "If a human ever says to you, 'Okay, this might be crazy, but do not run away,' do not dismiss the idea. Do not panic. Instead, get out of their way. Provide whatever support they need." 6 months had passed since the new Terra rescue. The phrase had spread across the galaxy like a virus. Okay, this might be crazy, but every alien officer knew those words. Every military academy taught their significance. Every combat simulation included scenarios based on human tactical improvisation. And now, Admiral Jiwon Park was about to say them again. The Coalition High Command had gathered for an emergency session. A rogue artificial intelligence collective had seized control of the automated defense grid protecting the galactic core. Every conventional approach had been analyzed. Every solution resulted in either catastrophic casualties or complete failure. 70 species had sent their best strategic minds. 3 hours of discussion had produced nothing useful. The AI was too smart, too fast, too well protected. It could anticipate conventional tactics and counter them before ships even launched. Admiral Thexvor watched the humans in the room. Jiwon sat quietly, studying the tactical displays with that expression he had learned to recognize. She was calculating, planning, about to propose something that would make every regulation manual obsolete. Jiwon stood up. The room went silent. Not the silence of respect. The silence of existential dread. She looked at the assembled admirals, generals, and tactical specialists. She smiled. And then she said the words, "Okay, this might be crazy, but..." Admiral Thexvor closed all four eyes. A Kernian ambassador started hyperventilating into a breathing apparatus. Someone's translator malfunctioned from trying to process 47 different expressions of organic profanity simultaneously. By now, everyone knew what followed those words. What followed was a plan that violated conventional wisdom, ignored established doctrine, treated safety margins as polite suggestions, and somehow, impossibly, worked. Thexvor did not bother asking what the plan was. He had learned that human plans made more sense after they succeeded than before they started. Instead, he asked the only question that mattered. How many regulations am I going to have to temporarily suspend this time? Jiwon checked her tablet. She scrolled through a very long list. She scrolled some more. Finally, she looked up. All of them. All of them. A Thorvan general looked faint. Every single safety regulation, procedural requirement, and common sense guideline in the Coalition Charter. We are going to need complete freedom to operate. Captain Minji stood up next to Jiwon. Her presence had become legendary after New Terra. Pilots across the galaxy tried to fly like her. Most of them crashed during training. The successful ones became elite combat specialists. The AI thinks logically, Minji explained. It predicts our moves by analyzing patterns and calculating probabilities. So we are going to confuse it with illogical behavior. We will create chaos it cannot predict. Lieutenant Hyun, now running his successful consulting business but still advising the military, added his contribution. We will use precisely calculated explosives deployed in a pattern that resembles no known mathematical sequence, but still achieves the desired result. The AI will try to find the pattern. It will fail. While it is confused, we strike. Dr. Sora provided the psychological analysis that tied it all together. Artificial intelligences are built on logic and pattern recognition. They are perfect at predicting logical behavior. But humans are not perfectly logical. We make decisions based on intuition, emotion, experience, things that cannot be calculated. We are going to exploit that advantage. The alien officers looked at each other. They had learned a lot in 6 months. They had read Dr. Sora's book. They had studied the New Terra mission. They had watched training videos of Captain Minji teaching controlled chaos. They knew that when humans said something might be crazy, it definitely was crazy. They also knew it would probably work. A Krillian general who had been skeptical 6 months ago now spoke with confidence. What support do you need, Admiral Park? Jiwon smiled. This was progress. 6 months ago they would have argued for hours. Now they simply asked how to help. Full access to the fleet. Authorization to modify ships however we need. And most importantly, trust. When things start going wrong, and they will go wrong, trust us to handle it. Over the following weeks, something remarkable happened. Alien officers started thinking like humans. Not completely. They maintained their precision and careful planning. But they added flexibility. They prepared backup plans for their backup plans. They practiced improvisation. The Krillians established what they called Human Crisis Response Protocol. The official name was intimidating. The actual content was simple. Get out of their way and document everything. The Kernians started a betting pool on how many regulations each human operation would violate. The over-under line was typically set at most of them. Betting on the under was considered foolish. The Vrexian Military Academy, once enemies, now taught a mandatory course called Understanding Human Tactical Psychology. The textbook's introduction began with a statement that had become famous across the galaxy. Humans do not think victory is impossible. They think impossible is a dare. Coalition legal departments maintained pre-approved exemption forms. They were officially called Emergency Operational Waivers. Everyone called them Human Innovation Waivers. They authorized violation of most safety, procedural, and common sense regulations during active crises. The AI crisis was resolved 3 weeks later. The details remained classified, partly for security and partly because the methods used made civilian lawyers extremely nervous. What was known publicly was simple. The humans did something unprecedented. The AI could not predict it. The crisis ended. Casualties were minimal. Success was total. Regulations violated numbered in the hundreds. 5 years after the new Terra rescue, the coalition officially adopted human strategic principles as standard doctrine. The principles came with extensive safety disclaimers. They also came with impressive success rates. Admiral Ji-won Park now trained the next generation of tactical officers, both human and alien. Her classes were legendary, difficult, stressful, transformative. A young alien cadet raised his hand one day. He was Thorvin, barely 20 years old, eager to learn. "Admiral, how do we know when to use conventional tactics versus human-style improvisation?" Ji-won considered the question. It was a good one, the kind that deserved a thoughtful answer. When you look at a problem and every textbook solution will fail, when the situation seems impossible. When following the rules guarantees defeat, that is when you remember what humanity learned over centuries of trial and error. Sometimes the right answer is not in the manual. Sometimes you have to write a new manual. Sometimes you have to light the old manual on fire and figure it out as you go. She paused, smiled. But always start your proposal with the words, "Okay, this might be crazy, but..." That way everyone knows what they are getting into. It is a warning and a promise. A warning that you are about to violate multiple regulations. A promise that you have thought it through and believe it will work. The cadet looked nervous. "And if they try to stop us?" From the back of the classroom, Captain Minji called out. She was teaching advanced flight tactics in the next room but had been listening. "They will not. They have learned it is easier to approve the plan and hold on tight." Lieutenant Hyun, guest lecturing on weapons innovation, added his perspective. "Plus, the results are usually spectacular, sometimes literally. I have blown up a lot of things in the name of solving problems." Dr. Sora, now Coalition Chief Cultural Officer, provided the official position. "The galaxy has learned an important lesson. When humanity says something might be crazy, it definitely is. But it will also probably work. That is not a bug in human psychology. It is a feature. And now it is everyone's favorite feature." The class ended. Students filed out, talking excitedly about impossible problems and creative solutions. They would go on to serve across the coalition fleet. Some would become legendary in their own right. All in one last time before his retirement. He was 134 years old now. Time to let younger officers take over, but he wanted to say goodbye properly. They gathered in a quiet bar on Nexus Station, the same place where years ago they had celebrated before the new Terra mission. The same place where Thexivore had first truly understood human tactical philosophy. "I wanted to thank you," Thexivore said. "All of you. You changed how the Coalition thinks about warfare. You saved millions of lives. You turned impossible into routine." Ji-won raised her glass. "You gave us the freedom to try. That was not easy for you. You had to trust us when every instinct said we were crazy." "You were crazy," Thexivore said, but he was smiling. "You still are. But you were right. Sometimes crazy is exactly what the situation needs." Minji laughed. "We should put that on a plaque. Sometimes crazy is exactly what the situation needs." Perfect military motto. They talked late into the night. Stories of missions completed, problems solved, regulations violated in the name of doing what was right. They remembered colleagues who had not survived. They celebrated those who had thrived. As the evening ended, Thexivore stood to leave. He paused at the door and looked back at the 4 humans who had changed everything. "One final question," he said. "Will humanity ever stop surprising the galaxy?" Ji-won smiled. "I hope not. The day we stop surprising people is the day we stop growing. Adaptation is what we do best." Thexivore nodded.